I was saying goodbye to the kids, right? It was calling the kids' schools, just saying goodbye to friends. It was like really bad. I just remember this 1 week where it was like living moment to moment. You don't stop being a mom. That is my biggest motivation. Hi, my name is Dalitso, and I live in Deland. That's a little town between Orlando and Daytona Beach. And I was diagnosed with invasive ductal carcinoma in 2020 at the age of 38. I am most passionate about people. I was a mental health therapist before I retired due to the cancer diagnosis. In our house, it's like 3 generations that live together. When it comes to fun, for me, it's everything that revolves around people. Going to the beach together, swimming, cooking. There's always food at my house. Traveling together. I used to travel a lot before I got ill.
Dalitso noticed her first symptoms 8 years before her diagnosis. Doctors weren't concerned at first.
It started with this fatty tumor tissue. It was getting to feel harder and harder, like a golf ball. Um, and so then I started having just like fibromyalgic pains for years, and I was doing everything I could. I was doing CrossFit. I was doing all sorts of things to just get my health back on track. And 2018 and 2019, I started working with my doctor because I had a history of autoimmune Hashimoto. So we thought it was, coming from that. So we really went strong and we were dealing with that. But I lost a tremendous amount of weight. And so it really was very unsightly. It was like sticking out of, it was half of my breast at the time. Um, so in 2020, I was feeling a lot better. I had more energy. Um, but I just had back pain and I was seeing a chiropractor. I was getting a lot of massages and I just kept having these spasms.
Dalitso got a second mammogram done, which revealed stage 2 breast cancer.
That was shocking. And then when I went to see my surgeon, I was getting off of the table, uh, the examination table, and I was wincing because getting up, my back was like sore. And he looked very concerned, and I was like, "You're a breast surgeon. Why are we focusing on my back?" And he just looked very concerned. By the following day, he called me after um, an emergency PET scan and told me that it was stage 4. It had mets to my bones, and I actually was walking around with a fracture on my spine, and so that kind of changed the course of treatment. I remember that day very, very well. He calls me and he tells me the news, and I was just shocked, right? And I still didn't really quite comprehend what stage 4 meant. I think I was more shocked that I had a fracture on my back, that I'm not gonna wear shoes. I really still didn't know much about that it's terminal, right? I just thought, okay, it's a higher level of staging. But in my mind, it wasn't like, hey, this thing is gonna kill you, or this thing, it's terminal and you could die. Like just the serious, it didn't really hit me. I just said okay, and I went on to watch a movie with my kids. So I think it kind of slowly hit me as we went along.
Dalitso was going through a divorce when she got her diagnosis. Doctors planned to start palliative radiation on her spine. All of this happened in 2020 at the start of the pandemic.
On my way there, my the bone actually fractured all the way through. So then I was actually in the infusion center. I was completely paralyzed from the from the belly down. So they had to take me with an ambulance, go around the corner, and then they had to have an emergency. they call it vertebroplasty, where they use like an epidural needle and inject some sort of a cement liquid in the fracture on my back. I healed from that. Then I ended up starting the radiation. Actually, the week we went on lockdown is when we started radiation because it was high intensity, short duration. No one could drive me, so I had to drive myself and had 20 minutes to get home, eat, and then I would just sleep because I would just be wiped out. So then we did that radiation for the spine. And then after that, we started working with the oncologist. And that was, uh, so there's no end of treatment when it comes to stage 4. It's a matter of two things: how well you're tolerating it and how well the cancer is, is responding to it. So the treatment was phosphodex and Ibrance. That's kind of like a newer combination that came out a couple years ago for MBC. And it worked really well on the cancer, but I was having a hard time with it. So it's the phosphodex that shots in your butt has to be in your butt. And the Ibrance, yeah, pills for 3 weeks. So the first day of your pill, that's when you also go in and get your shot. And every time I would go in, I'd stop breathing. And so then it would become this emergency Benadryl, steroid, and all this chaos. And we tried different combinations. Two nurses giving me a job at the same time, doing this, doing that. The cancer was responding to it, but then I was developing all the other side effects.
Dalitso was experiencing side effects from radiation.
Going into your bone marrow. So I had issues with my blood cells were kind of taking on a distorted shape. I was having heart issues. I ended up in a hospital because of that. I just couldn't breathe. So like all these things kind of, so you start to feel them as the weeks are kind of going. You start having things like neutropenia, all those not so fun stuff. So then you kind of started this process of every 6 weeks I was ending up in the hospital. Whenever I'm in the hospital, my kids always come and we cuddle on the bed together, like literally squeeze in into the bed together and we cuddle and sometimes take a nap. As long as they let us, like, they allow us to do it.
Dalitso started hormone therapy.
It's considered adrenal hormone therapy. The medications are working on some version of disrupting the cancer's attachment to the hormone, right? That's what these drugs do. So I did that until so I was again constantly in the hospital. I was just in constant physical pain, right? It was just like the worst kind of flu or somebody's running you with a dump truck all the time, right? That's just that feeling. So by August, we were trying different things. He tried certain pain medications. Uh, we tried changing to other medications. It was the same situation. So we took a break, but I was still ending up in the hospital. Every so often, my white blood counts were tanking. We kept delaying it until the following year of 2021, April. And then we tried one more time, and immediately I was sick again. By August of 2021, I ended up in hospice. They tried very hard, and I just kept going downhill. And to a point in 2021, um, I was saying goodbye to the kids, right? It was calling the kids' schools, just saying goodbye to friends. It was like really bad. I just remember this one week where it was like living moments to moments, and it just the vigil, just my mother was not sleeping. It was just a very, very challenging week. And so they were throwing everything at it, right? To a point where they threw too much at it. One of the doctors just listened to me and he was like, "You need to be in hospice." So I was in hospice for 3 years. 3 years. Just, I mean, the inflammation that was in my body caused by the cancer and the treatment that we had, like they just were having a hard time. And if hospice is having a hard time, you're in trouble because they have the liberty to give you as many things as they can. At one point, for 9 months, I was walking, sleeping, eating 24/7 with the big IV bag, the 500 ml. There were just days where you just couldn't predict how you were going to feel. There were days where there were 4 or 5 nurses being called to the house just to come and manage the pain because it just was not manageable, right? Um, so I was at home mostly. It was just home, and um, I barely went anywhere, right? Because I couldn't drive. You have Groundhog's Day, right? Every day is the same. You have the same routine. And if it weren't for my children and my faith and having my mother with me, I don't think I'll be here right now. I didn't think I would make it. And um, but by the grace of God, I did. I started pulling through. Little things matter. Your perception matters, right? So for me, just having like a project like designing a house, but just gave me something. I wanted to travel. Um so I had promised my oldest daughter to take her to Paris when she graduated from high school. And I couldn't do it. So my ex-husband surprised me in a present. He took us to Paris. I was in a wheelchair for most of the my trip to Paris, right? Uh, but it was still worth it. My ex-husband was just really amazing in the process, and the girls were just amazing, and we did everything. I really wanted to travel back to my home country, which is Malawi, and yeah, I never thought that I would ever make it there alive, and so that was a big thing. And my doctor was so encouraging. We did everything we could for me to take a 5 week trip to Malawi, which was just so surreal. I remember landing at the airport. I just wept, right? Because I thought I was gonna go back in a cremation box, right? And and, and so for that, for to just touch, like, oh, it was like the best feeling.
That feeling didn't last. Dalitso got devastating news. The cancer came back.
I was beginning to have some pain that was just didn't feel quite right. Um, so I tried to get off the medication, and that was horrendous. But I was able to feel, I was like, something is wrong. I went back to see my oncologist, and the cancer had spread. I had broken ribs, broken sternum. It spread into the ball sockets of my hips. Extra fractures on my spine. Uh, so that's what was causing me the pain. So at that point, that was actually, I think, more challenging hearing that than the first time around. My kids lost it. They did not want to hear about treatment because treatment is what ended me up in palliative care. And I didn't want to go back on treatment because I had vowed that I would just rather just live my life and instead of going back on treatment. I wasn't ready to lose my mobility. I was like, I wish mommy's able to do a lot of things, but I can't decide where the cancer spreads, right? So that was a very I think that was more devastating. I was scared this time around.
Dalitso started a new treatment plan.
He was going to put me on this new trial that um, people have less side effects on this particular trial. Was already a phase 2 trial. Um, but the first thing I needed to do was to do radiation on the spots. I had more pain, like in my ribs and the left-hand side, where the ball socket was very necrotic, um, and other places on my back. So we did that. Again, it was more high intense than this time. I just started not feeling well. So I was swelling. I had blood clots. I had pneumonia for like 4 months. Uh, so finally, they had to take me out of that drug. And so yeah, so I've been doing relatively well since then.
Her next CT scan brought good news.
It's like, yeah, we don't see anything. You're good. Like, you're fine. And I was like, and you were not going to tell me. So it was such a surreal moment of like, that's that's amazing. But I still struggle with because I'm still in a lot of pain.
Dalitso also struggled knowing her kids were watching their mom suffer.
It really was very hard especially for the first 8 months. My little one had to live with her dad almost on full time. That was devastating to the both of us and to my kids, and my kids seeing, I've had my oldest daughter see me being pinned down in the hospital because somebody's trying to get a vein, and I'm just screaming. But what's interesting is you don't stop being a mom. Like in the middle of that, I would tell them to stop and I'll send her out of the room, right? And so that is my biggest motivation. If it were not, you don't get a day off from being a mom. You still do homework when you're sitting on the bed, you know. Um, you do what you can, and you do it because of them. That has given the push to not feel sorry for myself.
She looks at life differently now.
5 years ago, I created these boxes for my kids when I thought I wasn't gonna make it. I wrote letters for their first day of high school, what, graduation, marriage, picking your wedding dress, all those things. I wrote all these letters. And this year, I was able to attend my oldest daughter's graduation. And I was able to go in her box and pull out the letter that I wrote for her graduation. Just being in that place where I'm leaving now. And so I'm pulling things out. Like I had bought my personal perfume. I had bought each one a bottle because I wanted them to have it. And last Christmas, I gave it to them because I don't want this perfume to expire, right? And so it's this amazing opportunity where I'm beginning to empty these boxes, right? They're hitting these milestones. Surviving is just doing life, just like trying to do life just like everybody else.
What Dalitso wants others to know.
I really don't have a fear of dying because everybody's gonna die, right? But I have a why, and my why are the people around me, my children, my nieces, my nephews, my mom, and they are my reason why. I'm living life, right? I'm living life, and if you know your reason, and you just hold on to that, cancer just becomes that thing that you just need to move aside so that you can get to where you need to be.